Here, buddy. I'm sure many of you noticed that I haven't been posting part system videos lately. Well, that's because I haven't gotten any part systems in quite a while. Number one reason is, look at all these refurbished computers I gotta sell. I'm definitely well stocked and not in a big demand for desktop parts, but a little bit different for laptop parts. But anyways, back in the summer of this year, 2014, the good old Goodwill Computer Works store got closed down, and they reopened across town with this store called The Grid. And I did post some videos about this back in the summer, and as many of you know, I have never been impressed with the new store. Guess how many times I've been there? I would say about 3 or 4 times since this past July. They moved in, like, I think either May, June, or July is when they closed the Goodwill Computer Store down and they opened the Grid store across town. And this new store, I just can't seem to like it, because they took a store that had more of a thrift store type setting, had lots of parts computers, lots of random parts and bins where you could just easily sort through and get what you want. They had a very good selection of refurbished computers, which they still kind of do. But anyways, what they did is they wanted to get out of the section of town they were in, because it wasn't a very good section of town. So they went from the Freedom Drive area of Charlotte to the University area of Charlotte in the Terrace Shopping Center. They opened this place called The Grid, which is, I'd say, at least double the size and square footage of the original Computer Works store. Now, normally you think when it's double the size, you think, oh, it's got to be a lot better. But they didn't do a very good job of managing use of that square footage. Because let me tell you, the selection there is, at least in regards to the computer stuff, it's just not the way it used to be. I've done a comparison video, of walking inside each store so we can see the difference. And it's like, with this new Grid store, it's like they're trying to make it more of like a retail setting, where you go into a store and you have stuff hanging on the shelves where you can pull it off and things like that. I'll show you a better example of that in just a moment. Well, you can probably see by looking at this bag here, they got their own Grid bags. Now, the original Computer store, they had this I think they had just standard Goodwill bags up there, but just standard Goodwill grocery bags, as I call them, those kinds of bags. And the parts computers up there, the parts computer section, you had test stations for your desktops. You could easily test your laptops. That's not the case at this new store. You can't test computers. And when it comes to things like routers and stuff like that, at the old store, you had the router itself taped or rubber banded with its power adapter setting on a shelf, and they were stacked in rows where you could easily see every single one. The video cards, at least the standard video cards, were in a bin where you could sort through them. The good stuff was always in a display case. Anyways, it's like this new Grid store is trying to mimic Radio Shack in a way. Not necessarily about the stuff that they sell. It's just the setting of the store. It's like they're trying to mimic a Radio Shack or some retail store, and not necessarily be like a regular Goodwill Computer Works store. As I mentioned, see, there's the bag. You got this all fancy up bag, which it's great and all, but have a look at this. Everything is in these little, they got these things here. This is a wireless router. It's a Netgear. It's a router, and there's the AC adapter. Now you're thinking, oh, it's neat how they got this set up. It's in this little bag. But think of it this way: in regular retail, you have certain SKUs of certain items, and you have a bunch of the same item, to better say. But when it comes to use items like this, half the time not even a single item is the same. And they have these routers, hanging on the shelves. It's about 6 or 10 a piece, per line, and not one is the same. So you're having to pull them off the shelves to find the ones you want, which is not something I really like. Let's take a look in this bag. I did buy some other things. Excuse the low light, it's actually on my bed. This is a DVI to VGA adapter. That hasn't changed. It's always been like that. But look at this. The video card. Instead of just simply having it in an anti-static bag, or better yet, in the way it is in the store, you had in the computer work store, you had them all in a bin where you could sort through them. These are all hanging on shelves, and the way they got this set up, as I mentioned, it's like with the routers. If you want to find a certain one, you got to pull them off the shelves off the hangers one by one, sort it and then sort through them, and try to find the ones you want. It's not a very efficient manner. I mean, it looks all cool and all, but it doesn't. It's not. Especially when you're trying to find a certain item. They easily were able to get a lot more items in the bins at the previous store than they are to have on these hangers in the new store. And they also, on top of this, they got too much retail crap. I mean, new stuff like these off-brand soundbars I never heard of. That's one example of stuff. And at least half the entire store is devoted just to video game stuff, which is great for all those who are into video games, but not for those who come there for computer-related stuff. It's just like the whole store layout overall. It's just not all that great. And on top of that, the section of town they moved into is very, very, very congested. It's right across the street from University of North Carolina at Charlotte. It's in what's called the University area of Charlotte. Lots of retail stores in the area, lots of congested roads. It's a real mess getting to this new store. Whereas the previous one, although it wasn't a very good section of town, it was right off the interstate. It took me less than 5 minutes to get to it when I got off the interstate. Whereas at this new store, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes of sitting in traffic and red lights. So yeah, I want to show you guys just another example of why I don't like this new store. They are planning on opening another store, and I really, really, really hope it's not going to be like this. I hope it's going to be more like the previous store. I mean, seriously, this is pathetic. I mean, that's great if you want to tailor to the college people over at UNC Charlotte. That's great and all, but you have really alienated a lot of your existing customers by what you have done, Goodwill. Like I mentioned, I've tried to like this new store. I just don't like it. I much prefer the layout of the older store. So anyways, thanks for watching.